welcome back to the Brynn Project. In today's show, we've really been focusing on empowering and encouraging women and also focusing on the amazing accomplishments that people have achieved in the face of some type of adversity. I mean, you just heard Jennifer Knapp before the break talking about growing up in the Christian music world and then have ended up coming out as gay, and that adversity. Beginning of the show, we talked about multiple sclerosis and looking at the positive and seeing past that diagnosis. And at 10 years old, many of us were probably thinking about the game we wanted to play or the show we were going to watch. But in 2010, Jackie Evancho stunned audiences of America's Got Talent with her unique soprano voice. Now she's 14 years old and just released her album Awakening at the end of September. I got the opportunity to chat with Jackie about this album, performing for the president and British royalty, and even returning to that America's Got Talent stage.
The show, Jackie, and at the age of 14, you've already done so much when it comes to your music career, even a little bit with acting where you've appeared in films. Now you've got a new album out, but first, do you have any favorite moments that you've achieved?
You know, every moment that I spend singing, I really enjoy, so I couldn't pick a favorite, but I really did love being back on America's Got Talent recently. That was fun.
So what was that experience like, getting to go back, knowing that that was really what jump-started your career several years ago?
You know, I thought it was going to be just another concert, and then I got there, and I was very nervous. I didn't expect to be as nervous as I was, which is probably because it did start everything for me. So being there just brought back the nerves of when I was there in 2010.
Did you find maybe any of the other contestants on the current season coming to you for advice, knowing you had been there, you've been in their shoes, and now you're so successful from it? You
know, I don't get asked for a lot of advice, actually. So I can't say that anyone's asked me for any.
Oh, wow. But I will say that's still pretty cool getting to go back to the place where it really all started and getting to perform. And I don't blame you for being nervous, just knowing all of the emotion that was once there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the new album, do you have a favorite song on this album?
I do, but it's kind of hard to choose between Think of Me or With or Without You by U2, because that song, I've never sung a song like that before, ever, and it's really interesting to me. I love singing it.
Wow, so how does this new album differ from anything else that we've heard from you?
Well, for starters, this new album, my voice is put into different genres, and I'm exploring different areas of my voice. And also, there's some original songs on this album, which is a new thing for me. And I actually wrote one, and I'm a little embarrassed by it, but, you know, got to get through that to be able to write more in the future.
So since this was a new thing for you, talk to us a little bit about the songwriting process and how that really went for you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't really hear well.
I said since songwriting was a new thing for you with that one song that you just mentioned, talk to us a little bit about how the songwriting process went for you.
The songwriting process was it was not what I expected. It was a lot more simple than I had expected. I just basically was messing around on GarageBand and put things together, and it sounded neat to me. So I made it, 3 minutes long and added lyrics to it. But it was fun. It was fun.
Well, that's very cool to hear that it was something that was very fun for you, and I'm sure a lot of your fans are looking forward to seeing that happen even more, and it's very cool to know that it wasn't something where you actually had to sit down and schedule out that time, but you really looked forward to it, and it just kind of happened and got put together.
Yeah.
Now, what are some other things that people can expect from this album that might be a little bit different than they've seen in some of your other works?
Well, in this new album, I do sing a song that goes really high, so I've added to my range from this album, and it's just, there's a lot of more upbeat songs, which is not out of my comfort zone, but something I haven't done often before.
Wow, and to hear, for a lot of people listening, to hear that you've added to your range is maybe one thing that they're amazed by, but at the same time, they don't necessarily know all the tricks. So what are some things that you're able to do to help to add to that range to keep your voice in the kind of shapes you can hit all of those high notes?
Well, I kind of just pushed myself to try and at least hit that note. I've never I don't know. You can't really train yourself to hit notes like that. It's kind of just, as your voice matures, you can reach that level. And as I get older, my range is getting bigger. So I guess that's partly why I could have hit that note. And honestly, I don't practice that much at all. I should, but I don't.
Wow. So this really is a natural talent for you, the fact that you don't necessarily have to practice in order to have the voice that you have.
I guess so, but I mean, it could just be sheer laziness.
Well, you still manage to have some great stage presence when you're out on that stage, whether it's something like America's Got Talent, performing for royalty and the president, touring the world. So do you have any preparations or any rituals that you have to do before you go out on stage?
Nothing too weird or anything. I just kind of say a prayer or two depending on how nervous I am, and drink a lot of tea and water and try not to talk. I don't like to eat before my shows because it will mess up my throat a bit, but that's really it.
So it's just mainly making sure that the instrument you're using is as clean as possible.
Yes.
And just that everything is working properly. And I find it rather interesting that you still do get nervous for shows. I mean, performing for some of the opportunities that you've had, I would think that those nerves might go down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do get nervous all of the time, no matter what I'm doing. But I like to say that if you don't get nervous, then you don't really care about how you're going to do, and that kind of shows that you don't want what you're doing. And it's just opinion. It's just an opinion, my personal opinion, but that's how it works for me, at least.
And that's a very cool way to look at it, that those nerves are, for you, the care that you're putting into everything that you're doing, every show that you're performing, no matter how small or how big, that it's your care, not necessarily nerves.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Now, I noticed that on this album, there is actually a Game of Thrones song. So for a lot of the fans, maybe people who aren't the fans, tell us about this song.
Well, this song was proposed to me by the record label, and I do not watch Game of Thrones. My parents won't let me. They let me watch Walking Dead, but I can't watch Game of Thrones. And when I heard this song, I thought that it was really beautiful and in this kind of haunting way. So I thought that it would be really fun to kind of just learn and sing.
Wow, so for you, this was something that you really enjoyed this song, and without having seen the actual show, since you weren't allowed, it was something where you had to find another way to get into the Game of Thrones spirit.
Yeah.
Now, what have you heard about the show, since obviously you haven't been able to see it?
I hear there's a lot of mature content.
Well, maybe one day you'll be able to see it, and then you'll be able to look for your song in the show, but I can understand why your parents maybe have let you not watch it.
Yeah.
What are some other things that we can expect to see from you? I mean, you've got the release of Awakening, and you've already done a tremendous amount with who you've performed in front of, but what are some other projects that you have coming up, or even types of shows?
Well, I'm going to be starting like a miniature tour, I guess, where I'll be going all over the place. And I also have a PBS special coming out soon. I don't know exactly when, but I know that it'll be out sometime soon.
Now, is this PBS special a concert that you've done, or is this maybe a behind-the-scenes look?
It's a concert of all of the songs that I've done on my album, and I'm singing them all live, which I usually do.
Well, that's a very cool experience. So that way, if anyone has the opportunity to see you live, they can at least watch the PBS special and see it in that regards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where can people go to stay updated with you, with all of your shows, and as you're producing more music?
Well, you can go to my website, which is JackieEvancho.com, and I have a Twitter and a Instagram, which is I think Instagram is official Jackie Evancho. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely very exciting times for you, and people have enjoyed watching you grow up from those first days on America's Got Talent to everything you've done, and I'm sure there's going to be much more, especially with the voice that you have.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for coming on the program.
Anytime.
And that was Jackie Evancho. She was discovered on America's Got Talent at just 10 years old. Now, 4 years later, she has just released a new album titled Brynn. Let's take a final commercial break, but stay tuned. You're listening to The Brynn Project.